Hello, everybody, and welcome to the back office. I hope you're doing well. I am grossly aware that I haven't been making as many videos recently, owing to various personal and professional commitments. And some of it is a lot of started projects sitting on my bench and not been finished. So I thought it'd be nice to get into the swing of things by making a simple video, again on modeling, because I've been doing quite a lot of modeling. You might be able to see in my sidebar here, I've got a lot of bits and bobs on the go. But I thought for something typical that you might have at home, which would be, just your general TV remote control. I mean, this is not a great remote control. It's one of those thin, horrible ones that takes a 3v3 lithium cell. However, I would like to have a mount for this to get it on the wall, a bit like an air conditioning remote or something like that, because it's so losable. And it will be very obvious when it's not back in its mount and I can have a row with the kids. So first things first, well, don't select make a hole. We've got nothing to make a hole in. We're going to go for a box. I'm going to click this bottom quarter here to start with. That's where you want to really get all your projects going. And I like top to be top the right way around. So I think we'll model this vertically. And first things first, I'm just going to model the remote. So you can't really model a case before you model a remote. And I've been making cases for phones and mounts for things galore since we last chat. So I'm just measuring here 52 millimeters wide. I'm just going to place it in a random place, but we're going to do 52 millimeters wide by, again, measuring up. This is just regular ruler, by the way. It's not like a metal rule or anything, a steel rule. It's actually 114 long. So let's say 115, shall we, for luck? And then we'll have to give it a bit of a thickness. And then when I go to thickness, I do like to hit the home projection so that I can have a decent look at what I'm dealing with. Again, really bad ruler. It's marred, so that's giving me a bit of grief, but I reckon that's about 7 mil. Yeah, 7 mil high. So you see this adjustment here. We're going to just set that to 7 mil. Boom. And that, for all intents and purposes, is going to represent our remote control. Now, if you want to have something a little bit more swish, you can actually do a sketch in Fusion. I was almost going to call it SketchUp in Fusion, and you could scallop this shape. But honestly, for what I've got in mind, I don't need to do that. But your use case might vary. So what I'm going to do now is then click into bodies here. Instead of calling it body 1, I'm going to call it remote. There we go, remote control. And it says here, the computer's graphics driver or hardware may be limiting performance. Alas, alas, what can we do? Right, so I'm going to create another box. So again, same plane. And I'm going to make this a wee bit bigger, We don't really need to make it taller, but we do ideally need to make it a little bit wider. So I'm going to go for something like, not like that, because that's not quite even Stevens. There we go. So I'm doing it by eye, but you can see it's basically a centimeter. Or is it a centimeter? Hang on. Anyway, whatever it is, it's about 5 mil around. Actually, each of those small increments that you can see on the screen is a millimeter, and that's more than enough for what I need. So I'm just going to look at it from the side profile, and you can see it's starting at the same plane as the remote. So if you wanted some clips to be in front of the remote and behind, I would say make this about 5 millimeters taller than the remote. So if the remote is 7, and then we're going to go 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 7 plus 5. Yeah, that's fine. And then instead of cut, we're going to say new body, and that'll give us a new body, and I'm going to create that there. So you've basically got two shapes now. So I'm going to have here, you've got the remote and you've got the holder. So the remote's really just a model here. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to drag the holder down 2 millimeters, because that is about where I want it. So we're going to have a feature on the top that's going to be holding that remote control. And I'll show you what we're going to do. We don't really need the remote after this, but we're going to say this is the target body, which is the holder. And the tool is going to be the remote control. And we want to do a cut. And you'll see that it's making this cavity. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep the tooling. So I'm going to click Keep Tools. So that when I'm done, you'll see that remote will still exist, but I don't really want it to interact with it much in our drawing for the time being. So I'm just going to hide it. So now you can see we have basically an envelope. It must be a chunky plastic envelope. So let's have a look at it from the front. So we know that this remote, for example, has around the edge, between the edge and the buttons, at least a full 5mm of free play, basically. And I reckon, just with my little eye, you could give it a lovely 4mm all round, and it would be absolutely loving that. It would be happy at that. So what we're going to do now, we're going to choose box again and choose the front face of our holder. And we're going to go in 4mm from each side. So you can see here, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going to start there. And I'm going to do the 4mm all the way around. So you can see on the bottom here, we're 4 up right there. Now, again, I eyeballed that. There are probably better ways to do it. I've done lots of things in Fusion to do with making fake geometries and stuff like that. And in fact, look, I've actually done it wrong. I can show you because I wanted to do 4mm from this inner face, not this outer face. So in fact, let's cancel that and let's try that again. I'm sure some of you are already shouting at the screen. I couldn't hear you over the sound of my tinnitus. Okay, let's have another go. Interestingly, I'm having a little bit of trouble reading things these days. And I went to the opticians and they said, your eyes is fine. But I tell you what, I'm not sure they are. I may be getting to the point where I need the old reading glasses. So anybody watching this video, if you have any top tips on the reading glasses front, I'm all ears. You just go to those shops and buy them off the shelf, right? What's that? +1, -1? You just keep trying them till it seems better. Again, opticians said better than 2020, but I don't know. Right, have a look here. So we've basically drawn a new rectangle, but because we're putting it through the old shape, it's actually switching the operation to cut, which conveniently is what we want. So I'm just going to I will allow it, bonk. And you can see now we've got something very much that looks like something you could slot your remote in and out. And I'm can show you that happening. Look, just slotting it in and out, right? That's good. But I'm a bit worried about the tolerance here because we're not allowing anything. So we really need to make our internal shapes here a little bit more tolerant of the tolerant of the intolerance. So what that means basically is if you look at the front here, I'll show you here, you can see that's how the exact thickness of the remote, but we probably want to go in a little bit. And yeah, I'd say 0.5 millimeter is actually pretty good. So we're going to cut 0.5 millimeter there. So that's got the 0.5 millimeter cut. And then we're going to do another, it's not really an extrusion, isn't it? It's more of a negative extrusion. Not -1, -0.5, please. There. And now, depending on how grippy you want it, these front faces, you could really play with that a little bit, but I'm going to go for the whole thing again the same, 0.5, just because, hang on, let me cancel that, I wasn't paying attention, -0.5, there we go. That would have been a bit annoying when you 3D printed it and found that it's really tight. Okay, so let's have another look again from the top. So we got quite a good looking thing going on here. Now I would like a feature at the bottom to push the remote out. So you imagine it's locked in. The only way to get it out would be to rub it or something. But it'd be better if you could just get your finger in there and go yoink, yoinks. So I'm going to do, I think pick a cylinder. Let's try a cylinder. So I'm going to put it on this plane, but I'm going to start it here. I would love it to start on that edge. Yeah. Is that what I imagined? I don't think it actually a cylinder's it's over the top for no reason. It's I can achieve something better later. I will show you. Let me just take this. We can make this full 2 centimeters. So I'm going to put from here to here. Oops, I want it 2 centimeters. There we go. Yes, yes. Come to the dark side, and then what I'm going to do is rotate this shape around. And I'm not going to go all the way through the back, yeah, but I'm going to go up to the back. So we still have a back on there. And now, if you see from this view, we've got quite a good little slot there. That should work quite well. Now, do we want, I'm just considering if we want to use, there's other features here that we can probably work out. So I'll just show you. You've got this solid rail that runs the whole way from top to bottom, but technically you could cut pieces out of it if you didn't want it to be so severe. But I think this is fine. I quite like it this way. But what we could do is make it a little bit softer by applying a fillet or a fillet. Applying a fillet. I'm not really quite sure how you're supposed to pronounce it, on these edges. So I'm going to click them all at once to see if I can just do them all at once. Depending on the geometry, it often lets you do that. And if it gets confused, it will complain. So let's see. Oh, look, it is doing something a little bit weird on this one, purely because I think I've selected the wrong thing. Yes, I have. Right, so now that's better. Look at that. And that looks quite nice for your finger to sort of find its way on that rounded edge. And then the nicer edges at the top are rounded, which is brilliant. That's good too. So I'm going to go OK with that. And then what I'm going to do is do the same on these two here. Oops, there we go. Look at that. And I think we could probably match. Oh, there we go. We could match the other side. So let's have a look at that from the front. Yeah. I'm almost feeling we should round these bottom ones now just to be matching. So let's do that too. Now, if you've got a multicolor 3D printer, you could of course consider adding some sort of embellishments or text or fake screws or anything like that on here, and that would look pretty cool too. But I think for my purposes, that is okay. Now, depending on how you're going to mount it, I'm probably going to just mount it using some, I want to say, Velcro, which is fine. But what you could do if you want to, it's going to sit proud if you just stick the Velcro straight on there. So what you could do is actually add a feature, like maybe I'll show you. Let me explain. I'll show you. Yeah, I'm going to come back out a millimeter. Now this isn't great for 3D printing, so the chance of me keeping it are pretty rare, and I'm hoping that I've got the timeline to be able to go back. Yes, I have. So what you could do, if you've got a particular piece of Velcro and you know the width of it, you've got like 20 mil, you could do maybe 2 strips here. So what you can do, just going to randomly place it. Imagine that's a 20 mil wide thing. And then what you can do is eat out the back here, maybe about millimeter, actually something like that. It will be more of a cut. It's not cooperating with me. Hang on. There we go. -1 millimeter. Yeah. So then what you will have is basically a nice little slot to stick your piece of Velcro in. But if you're going to do that, which I've already said I'm not, bear in mind the technology of your 3D printer. So if you're going to have to print supports and rafts and things like that, you might have a bit of trouble cleaning it out. But your printer miles may vary compared to mine. So see how you go. If it's a resin printer, of course, you won't have to worry about that in the same way at all. I probably will be printing it. I might print this vertically. I might test the Bamboo Carbon X1 by printing this vertically if I'm feeling particularly reckless. Just that way, there'll be no supports needed, and well, the supports might be needed, but that way you will have no internal supports on these bits where you want to slide this in and out. So I'm going to save that there, and I'm going to call it remote holder. And that will be something that I will send to the printer. Well, I'm going to send it to the printer now to show you the process, but I don't think we're going to sit here and wait for it to print. You just have to take my word for it. Unless, of course, I do a little bit of some sort of callback, print it, and then come back and continue this video. But that sounds like a little bit more work than I would be normally prepared to do. So, only joking. So here's Bamboo Labs coming up, and it's basically got its own slicer, which might be based on Prusa or one of those things. I mean, if you're a slicer freak, you could let me know. I'm going to just do this in black, so I'm just going to change the filament to black. I do have the option of doing some quite funky things. So I could, for example, decide on this that the very top layer should be orange. And it will print that, but I'm going to just have it all black right now. And let's see, for fun, if we go out of the painting tools back to the geometry tools, auto rotate, auto arrange. Let's see what the slicer says. Yeah, it would like support. Okay, well, I don't mind really allowing it too much in this setup with this printer, because the actual support it prints is really good, really easy to remove. It's not like my old printers. And I can leave that go, and then 45 minutes later it'll come up with a thing. So the 3D printer has finished its job, and I think it took about 40 minutes, plenty of time to eat a bowl of soup and do some other fettling around. I've actually cleaned out the support material that was in there, and I did a pretty bad job, to be honest. There's a few scratches in there, but I could have taken more care. But here's the remote control. Here's the case. Let's see. Look at that. Now, if I give it a little rattle, I don't know if you can hear that. Ever so slight amount of play in there. So if you wanted to, you probably could nip that down a bit. And remember that 0.5 millimeter we took out? Ooh, it would be pretty tight though. It depends if you like a nice tight fit or a loose. What I would advise, what I'll do in this case, I'll actually stick a bit of Velcro here, but the actual soft side of the Velcro. So that will add a little bit of cushioning, and then this will slide onto it and then be nicely wedged by that soft, compliant Velcro. But you can see the curve at the bottom actually looks quite good. It's not quite if this was a little bit deeper, for example, you would hide the radius of that remote control, but it's absolutely fine. But the finger bit here, look, that works really well. So all in all, I'm quite pleased, and I'm very pleased, of course, to be sharing this video with you. So if you'd like to continue the conversation, please jump over to the Discord and we can have a little natter. I'm not sure what the next video will be. It could be one of several things. I have a picture frame that I dismantled, one of those photo picture frame things, and I found an RGB input on it. So I might try to see if I can feed an RGB in there, if I can find a source for that. Or maybe another Famicom project. Who knows? Anyway, thank you so much for watching.